It's time to be encouraged today. We got to get encouraged. We got to be encouraged. And there's only one way to be encouraged, to know who we are and to encourage the who. So who you are is important. This is the Encouragement Conquers All podcast. This is Justin Fatica, if you don't know who I am. And I am here today to have guests on that can help you design your life in physical fitness, design your life mentally, design your family life, your spiritual life, your social life, and giving back, and your own career, to design your life so you can be the best person, so you can go out there and encourage others. Because let me tell you something, we need encouragement now more than ever. And I can tell you what, we have guests in the business sphere, we have guests in the mental sphere, we have guests in the faith aspect of life, and we have sports guests. But this guest we got on today, I'll tell you what, he not only has been involved with sports, so he can help you with that. He can help you with the mental game. He can help you, I'm sure, with the family. He can help you in your own career financially, I'm sure, because the mental game connects with all the areas of life that we need to design our life. And I want to welcome to another guest. It'll be an enlightening episode for Encouragement Conquers All. And I have the privilege of diving into the world of the mental performance coaching with Dr. Cassidy Preston. Dr. Preston is a mastermind behind the consistent elite performance mindset, one of the world's largest mental performance coaching firms, where he works with a diverse range of high performers, from professional athletes to CEOs. With his extensive experience and groundbreaking approach, Dr. Preston helps individuals gain a competitive edge by optimizing their mindset. Join us as we uncover the principles and strategies utilized by elite athletes and high performers to achieve a consistent success. Come on, Cassidy, let's jump on here and get excited. Are you ready to encourage somebody, Cassidy? That's what I want to know.
I love encouragement. I love it. It's the best. It's the best form, and a real pleasure to be on here, Justin. And thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great. So give me your journey. I know you were a hockey player, right? You were a hockey player, and now you become, a consistent, elite performance coach, which I'm sure maybe some of those that are listening or watching, they might not even understand what this is. So tell me your story.
Yeah. So my background, I'm from Canada. I grew up playing hockey. It was the Canadian dream to get drafted and play in the NHL. And so I was like, I'm going into my actual NHL draft season. So I was a pretty good hockey player. And in that season, this was a big season for me, because I'm like, well, I'm going to get drafted. I'm going to put up a bunch of points, and then I'm going to go to the next level, and I will be in that, dream. And so very results focused mindset. And then I fell pretty flat on my face. Did not go my way. I had 0 points, all kinds of adversity, got healthy scratch, meaning like I was healthy and I didn't even get to play. I had to like sit in the stands 48 times and watch my peers go chase down their dreams while I was held back. And so really got into my own head. And, after 10 years of my own career, I was able to overcome that. I still get to play the game and I love the game, but I really got fascinated. I was like, well, what's going on between my ears? How can I start to think differently? How can I, not get caught up in the shiny objects and stay present in the moment, stay confident despite any adversity? And that's why I went to school, read hundreds of books, learned from some of the top performance experts like Todd Herman and John DeMartini, and have created our own system to help athletes, to help any high performer in any area of life, to be able to like tap in and be like, okay, well, how can I work on my mindset in a practical way? Because there's all this fluffy cookie cutter stuff out there. Like, well, just be positive and, don't worry about it and be confident. And it's like, if I said that shit, like if I said that to my clients,
of course,
I'd be out of a job. Like there's more to it. And so it might be the outcomes we want, but it's not a how to, and it's not a strategy. So we really want to be thinking differently, really understand, and I'm sure we'll be getting into it, a mindset first. So that's what, I've created over the last, little bit here with my own company. That's now we're really going. We do tons of one-on-one coaching, and so that's the story. And we really help people, work on their mindset, their approach, get an insight out. Like, who do they want to be? How do you want to show up? The stuff you were saying right at the beginning. And then when they get clear on that, now they can go take action. And one of the problems is a lot of times people are having a hard time taking action because they're all tangled. The thoughts, the feelings, the lack of alignment, the lack of clarity, they're holding on to stuff. And so we want to help them untangle that. And then now they can go, be the best athlete, be the best business person, be the best surgeon, be the best, whatever they're doing in their world. They can go be their best version of themselves, and attack it. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
well,
brief summary there.
what I love is like what I want all the guests that are coming on Encouragement Conquers All to understand. You got to design your life. Robert Tunmeyer, who's trained me, along with Dan Dwyer, who trained him. You got to design your life in those 6 areas. And if you look at back one of the other podcasts that's been on that I did, it's design your life physically, mentally, and your family, and your spiritual life, and your social life, giving back, and your career and finances. And I really believe that the mental game has to do with all of those. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I'm also of the mind of like, and even like we think we work with a pro athlete. Are we just talking about sports and their career? No, like how's their, family life? How's their personal life? How's the other factors? Because if they're not taking care of certain parts of their life, that can become a problem and it'll leak into the other ones. And so, we can't work on everything all the time at the best we can, but like we got to be intentional. Like what's my priorities? What am I working on? And not, ignore certain areas of your life. So, big on the intentional part and looking at the different pieces.
Yeah, so I like to sort of like go backwards to go forwards. We're going to close out with all the different ways that people can have a consistent elite performance. But what I know about every single person, it's like you shared a little bit about it. When you started, like what was going on mentally? Like be real, be a little vulnerable here. Like what was really going on with you? Because I believe passion is about compassion. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You have compassion for someone who's struggling. I bet you why you're good at what you do
Yeah.
is you have compassion with somebody who's struggling with their mental game because you've been there.
Yeah.
So like help start on the level of most of our viewers that are saying to themselves, man, my mental game stinks right now. I'm waking up every day thinking about 800 things. I'm
Yeah.
waking up every day hating on myself or maybe depressed. We might even have people with anxiety listening.
Yeah.
So where were you at and what made you so passionate?
Yeah.
Passionate about encouraging people in the mental game of life.
Yeah, great question. So I'll go back to that NHL draft year where, again,
Yeah.
I had this big allure of results. I'm obsessed about the external things. And one of the problems with that, and again, our society very much, gets sucked into this allure of results, the external, the end goals. And goals matter. But when that
Yes.
becomes our whole thing and our whole why, well, what comes with being results first mindset and fully driven by that? Well, there's the stress and the frustration that comes out of it. There's the yo-yo, the emotional highs and lows, and the roller coasters. There's the weight of it, right? You feel this weight to achieve, and it weighs on us, and it like holds us back, and we don't feel light and free and loose. And then there's also just the constant worry, like we're constantly worried about whether we're going to achieve it or not. So there's all these different aspects. It's like, and I was feeling that. And then so what happened that year? I actually started on like the starting lineup. I'm like, here we go. And then I don't score. And then I miss another goal. And then I start comparing myself to others. Now I start beating myself up. Now I hold the stick tighter and it gets worse. And then eventually that's when I just stopped getting played. Like we had one game where like I didn't even dress, or I actually dressed, but I didn't even get one shift on the ice. Like it's pretty rare to like be in the game and like coach never even put me in. Like, how am I supposed to get a point? And so it was a really long, tough year. And one of the things we talk about when we work with athletes and high performers on is like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 mindset, meaning phase 1 is things are rolling, things are pretty good. Phase 2, adversity hits, pressure, expectations, something changes, and then our mindset starts to shift. We don't deal with it well. And so that's often players going to a new level or people with a new role, or they've got new standards or expectations, or now they got something to lose. So whatever the different factors are, and they start to get consumed with results, the weight weighs on them, they doubt themselves, their inner voice. So that's what I was going through. I was very much in phase 2. And one of the hard parts is when we resist it, is the first big mistake. When we resist phase 2, we're like, oh, I need it over. I wish I could go back to phase 1 and just play free. And you can't
Yep.
go back. Like you can't go back. Like
Nope, that's not how life works there, Cassidy. No way.
Can't go back. So it's like we got to learn to embrace it, to accept it, to break free of all of the external things. And that's how we start to get into phase 3 mindset. And phase 3 is better than phase 1 because we've learned from the phase 2 stuff. So I kind of did that, to be clear, because like I kind of got into phase 3 and I did move through it, and I became like, I had a lot more resilience and grit. Everything in my life since then has been a lot easier because I went through that tough time. And one of the worst parts in the story I like to share, it wasn't the 0 points. It wasn't the, not getting played. It wasn't falling flat on my face. It was actually when I went back to my hometown. And I come from like a smaller town of like 50,000. I'm the only kid playing at that level. And so I'm kind of a big deal. I'm not really a big deal, but I'm kind of a big deal in my small little town. And some guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, if I played 34 games in the OHL, I would have got 1 point." It's like, are you kidding me? Like, just wanted to quit. Like, just, the pain, right? But I was able to pick myself up from that. And so that was a bit of my phase 3. But the one thing and I kept sliding back into phase 2 because I kept worrying about the results. And so it's very common that people get stuck in phase 2 because they don't embrace it. They resist it instead. And they're like, "No, this, like, I need to, have to, shoulds, judgment." And they stay stuck here. And there's always phases 4, 5, 6, and 7, like it's a constant evolution to our mindset and how we think and operate and who we want to be. But the 1, 2, 3 really paints a nice picture of like, one of the big problems is getting stuck in phase 2 and resisting it. And you might get phase 2 results, but you can have a phase 3 mindset. But you got to stop resisting it. You got to embrace it. And then you got to go create it and be intentional. And so when I relate to people, when I talk about my story, it's like, yeah, that was a real tough time for me, but I was able to grow from it. And one of the things that definitely helped me grow, and maybe took me a lot longer to really realize, is like, I needed to prioritize who I wanted to be. I needed to stop resisting the results, right? I developed a lot of grit, but
And
that second
what
lesson
did you
took me a
come
while.
out of that, Cassie? What did you come out and say? This is who I want to be. This is where I want to head now. Now
Yeah.
that hockey didn't necessarily work out the way you planned, and you're
Yeah.
like in your brain, you're thinking,
Yeah.
this is where I want to go. This is where I want to head.
Yeah. Well, it was, sports supposed to be fun. Life is supposed to be full of meaning. And a lot of people lose that. And I was losing that because I couldn't untangle what was going on. And throughout my career, and I was able to overcome it and have a better and good enough career, but I didn't fully learn that lesson till after all the schooling and after all the book and like working with clients. And I was like, okay, one of the main lessons, like to help people not go through the pain and be stuck in that phase 2, is we got to make a flip of the switch. We got to shift our priorities. What do we choose to matter most? And are we waking up each day focusing on what do I want to achieve? What do I want to, do and the results? Or is it who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? And get clear on our values and what's meaningful in our life. And it doesn't mean we don't have these goals, because they're there and they matter, the external things, but find some internal, I call it personal scorecard, process, mindset, get clarity on that first and foremost. That's where the actions are going to flow and the results are actually more likely to achieve them. And when we let go of them and we prioritize this, but most importantly, you enjoy the journey. We get to enjoy life. We get to enjoy the experience. And so that's also what really is like, okay, there's this big void, and I just see it everywhere in sports and our culture. And it's like, okay, there's got to be a different way. And that's what
What's
drove me
that
down the
void
track.
about? Like for me, I'm a faith guy. So for me, I'm like, that's what fills my void. And
Mm,
I'm like a Planet Fitness guy. Not like I don't like working out there, but there's a no judgment zone, so I don't care anybody's answer. But like for me, that is what fills my void, and my why fills my void. That I'm a mission to give back and to be not to be so self focused for me personally.
yeah, I
Like
love
what
it.
gets me encouraged is when I'm about others.
Yeah.
I receive joy when I'm about others and putting myself last, but yet of course I have to take care of my Maslow's hierarchy of needs to make sure the basic needs are met. But outside of that, my life's got to be pouring out for others.
Mm,
Like what you're doing with your clients and in
yeah.
your business. But what fills your void? You say that void. What fills your void? What keeps you encouraged as you're leading others and as you go through your process and journey?
Yeah, no, great question. And yeah, it'd be pretty similar. Like, so, our values come from our voids, right? So what fills my void and what I value is being able to shift the culture, help people shift and flip the switch from going, well, let me just be consumed and worried about results and external things and what everyone thinks and yada, 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 to be like, nope, let me flip the script.
You want to get a headache?
Right? Let me flip the script. When I can help someone flip the script, when I can do a podcast, when I can do a presentation, when I write my book or a blog post, and when I work with a client one-on-one, I'm helping shift the culture, help people shift their mindset from prioritizing being consumed and weighing and the weight of all this to like, no, let me focus on who I want to be. Let's get reconnected to an intrinsic, then find their own voids and values and find their why, be intentional about how they live. When we help somebody do that, that's what I love to do. And that's filling that void because I see there's a huge void. So what fills it is just getting out there, trying to do it on bigger and bigger levels. That's why I wrote the book. Like I could do it one athlete at a time, but now I can do it a book at a time, a podcast at a time, a presentation at a time. So, we have 18 now counting coaches getting out there one out of one, because when you do a podcast, it's one thing. When you read a book, it's another thing. But when you work with somebody and they're helping you find their blind spots and they're pointing to things, that's where really big shifts make. And then those people have a ripple effect out in the world. So that's, it's a big question, but that's my outside or inside out approach that I would answer with that.
No, and I love, and that's what creates confidence. Of course, like you would share, success creates confidence. But I think what you're sharing on a deeper level, which I like to encourage our guests on, it's your why that creates confidence. Like, why do you do what you do? That's how you overcome failure, like you share. So, somebody's sitting here, they're listening right now, and they're failing like at their goals, or they're failing at what they deem as success. I'm one of your clients. What are you going to tell me? Come on. Are you going to pump me up or what? Are you going to give me not just some feeling and emotion thing, but some truth, some data? Give me something, man.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So great question. And I'll start that by echoing your points on confidence. And so you think about, taking action, and if the why is not big enough, right, then you're not going to take the action to build the confidence, to build momentum.
What's big enough? What's big enough? Help clarify that.
So meaning like
that.
You have an intrinsic why, like there's a meaning behind it. And so like you can use like the contrast. Often people's like, think of as an athlete back when I was 16, 17 and didn't get drafted and then got chirped and whatever. It was like, and I failed. And it's like, well, I could quit. I was like, no, I don't want to quit. Then the why is like, I had the choice to choose like, no, I would rather be, and it'd be more meaningful to keep going, not let this define me and move forward. So, but knowing that it's like, no, I enjoy the game. Like I love all the work that I get to put in the intrinsic parts. So when you said, your why is what fuels confidence, it fuels the energy and the momentum. And the second thing though, I would pair with that is your capability. We don't want people to attach. There's a huge mistake. And so a lot of times people struggle with failure because they attach their confidence to the external results. Like that's like, yeah, you can be confident about external results, but true confidence, what we want, we don't even want athletes. I don't like people using the word because it's so associated with external things. True confidence is about your capability. Do you own the work that you put in? Do you know why you're doing something and you own, like, am I confident in my book and our messaging and our coaching? Yeah, because we know it works, because we put in the time and the energy, not because it's like, well, I'm just confident about it. Like, no, it's like, it's about the process. It's a process of coaching, the strategies, the things that we've learned and that apply. And so it's not about whether the results of the whole thing, and there's ups and the downs along the way, and whether people like us or don't. And same with an athlete or a business person or whatever. We got to detach from the results and have our certainty based on our capabilities, based on our why, the more intrinsic things, and take an inside out approach. So the flip of that, we go back to like attached to results. That's an outside in. The outside factors, what other people say, the results, the sale, the points as a hockey player, whatever it is, that's dictating how we feel inside. That's flawed.
That doesn't work. Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Yeah. Why doesn't that work? Because most people, I think, Cassidy, would you agree, think like you're talking right now?
Yeah.
Like, it's like,
100%
oh, I
outside
have
in.
a house. I've got 4 cars, not 1, like whatever it is. Now I'm successful. Oh, I only have a Lamborghini. I don't have 3 of them. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
whatever it is, like stupid stuff. So how have you seen that work, that intrinsic? Because everybody that listens to this podcast, like that really jumps in, they really are striving their best to secure their why. Help them do that. Come on.
Yeah, and so it's like a peeling an onion type thing. Like it takes time. It's a process, and it's constantly evolving too. And a good way to look at it is one of the problems when people start looking at their why or their intrinsic drivers and their capabilities and like detach from the results are like, well, am I going to lose my competitive fire? Am I going to lose my drive and ambition? I'm like, no, you can be high in both. You can have and keep the ambition, and it's not so that's not inherently a bad thing. What's the problem is when that's the only thing and it's the main thing, or you think it's the main thing, and you're not even connected at all with why you do something in the first place and what the meaning is. Now, how do we find that why? Well, it's a discovery process. And the way that I would frame it is like it's not a list. It doesn't need to be a word, and it doesn't need to be a list, because generally lists are boring and your why should not be boring. A story is more important. Stories create the feeling. A why is a feeling, it's an emotion. And so I'll use myself, go back to why did I write the book? Why do I do the work that I do? Because when I was 16 and I wanted to get drafted to the NHL and I had all this thing, and then I was consumed by that and it created this fear and all that, like that's my why, is to help other people not go through what I went through and they can do it a different way, to help them to have that feeling of being mindset first, to focus on who they're being, be more grounded through life, not highs and lows and the emotional roller coaster. So it's not about the words. It's not even about the story, but it's like when I think of that, that's who I am, what I'm about. That's what drives me. And so from an intrinsic standpoint, let alone all the other people that I've seen and it's bigger than just me. Like it's not about me, but it's about, my past me, and I see that in so many other people, if that makes sense. So
For sure.
yeah, so that's the way
So
I would be looking back to, like, and a good way to look at it is like, what's a big pain? Again, our whys, our values can come from our voids, right? And I would bet the same is for you. Like you talked about, your faith or religion and your, other focus and encouraging others. My guess is there's a huge void around that at some
of
point in your
course,
life, that's where
of
that
course.
drive and that value comes from. And so knowing that story or those moments and connecting to that, that's powerful versus just saying a word per se. Sometimes a word still works, or the list idea, but the story is a really good way to look at it.
Yeah, and a lot of the guests I have on, they'll say, "Hey, pick these 4 values and create a mission statement." Would you agree with that, or is that it has, or are you not into that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Um, I would do it in different areas of your life. Like meaning, well, here's what I value. In work, I value being strategic. I value being able to connect. I value being progressive, innovative versus just doing cookie cutter stuff.
I like that point though, there, Cassie. What you're saying is, in like when you're designing your life, like when you're working out, you'd have values that fit that.
Yeah.
When you're working, you'd have when you're with your family, you'd have. I like that.
Yeah. Versus like one overarching, mission statement for my life. Like, no, like there might be one area of your life that is my biggest priority, if that, like, often, or puts a lot of my time and energy on. But how I show up at work is, I can't be showing up that way with my kids. It doesn't work that well. Like I got to be playful, connect more, um, listen more, like be a lot more patient with my young kids than I need to be at
How
work.
many, how
Like
many kids do you have? How many kids do you have?
two daughters, 5 and 3 right now. So
Okay, great.
yeah, so I gotta be patient with that. Like it's a different values mindset approach. And so but being clear on what your mission is or what you're about, and having values around that resonate and click based on those voids and a story particularly, and being intentional about it is very helpful. But to create one overarching one, it's like life's not like one bit, like it is one big thing, but like being able to be intentional about how I show up at different areas at different times is a more effective, sustainable, personalized way of doing it.
That's an interesting way to look at it, and just to be honest, I've never had a guest look at it that way, and I like where you're headed with that. I'm going to think about that. That's a great way to be open to that. I'm sure you have a lot of your clients that deal with, like, maybe you never get asked this question, maybe you have gotten asked this question, but like death, right? Death. I'm sure you have clients like that deal with that they go through that, and it's like, so like, where does mindset for you, like, consistent elite performance might come when you're thinking about death and life?
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that a lot of people, I'm sure, hire performers because
Mhm.
it's such a mystery.
Yeah. So, and are you referring more to their own death or to death around them? Just
The
what?
death around them, the
Yeah,
ones that you're
mostly.
still working with, and somebody comes to you and go, "I just want you to know my
Yeah.
brother died, and he was only 30 or 22," and
Yeah.
now you're like, now you can't quantify and qualify that, like you have to work through that. How
Yeah.
does that work in your mindset when you can't quantify and qualify? What's your take on that?
Yeah, great question. Actually, fascinating topic because our culture generally does a terrible job talking about death, and and so then when it happens, people of like they've never been prepared and thought about it and have no idea how they're effective ways to process and handle it, and therefore don't handle it well often, and it weighs on you, and it becomes like no, it's like everyone dies, like we're all gonna die, like
Yeah,
we got to learn to deal, like we can't hide from it, like it's just, but how are we going to deal with it? It's the circle of life. And one of my mentors, John DeMartini, has some great work in this area and helps people process like when there's super tragic deaths as well, in terms of like a spouse dying, like that, like someone that close, and
can't imagine.
like how
I'd be a
heavy that is.
disaster.
Yeah.
Anybody knows me,
Yeah.
you meet my wife, you're like, this guy married up. He outkicked his coverage, like.
So right, so then, and one of the ways, and I'll use a lot of his framing with it, is like when someone dies, there is a loss in the way of like the person is gone, the memories are not gone, but a way of
Nope.
looking at it is like who they are and what they mean in that relationship shifts. Meaning, I had a really good, if I have a really good friend and that friend passed away, and that friend gave me a lot of comedy and comfort and support, and then now they've passed away, is that gone? Well, the past is not gone. We could remember and honor them, and we can even like communicate with them in our mind, and that, but it's like that it shifts. That where you got that comedy and support and could come from, now someone else is going to step up, or it comes from within. But life is just about things shifting versus like, well, it's gone for, because now we create this huge void, and there's this fantasy nightmare thing that can be created out of it, and then we just hold on and we resent and we don't process it. Now, and how fast do you need to process it? Is it like, oh well, you need a month? Do you need 2 weeks? Do you need wrong? I don't think time is actually the
It's
real
gonna be for
important
your
part.
whole life, It's gonna be
Yeah.
for your whole life,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, so but from a healthy standpoint, you can get a healthy mindset around it, relative, like if you look at it from a shift, or you look at it in a healthy way. And I don't want to do over justice, it's not my main thing, but I definitely have
Yeah,
had
no,
lots
for
of
sure.
athletes or people deal with it, and I'll give my support in that area,
Yeah,
which again, John DeMartini's got some great, unique, very powerful perspectives and lessons on that, which we apply in other areas too. But it's like collapsing fantasies and nightmares is the premise, and being able to look at like how things change and shift and evolve versus things are lost and gone, and like that's such a that narrative in and of itself is going to create more of a emotional charge response and be harder to process now. So it's
yeah.
the
It's
way
the
I would answer
question
it.
for me is, how are you gonna keep that person encouraged in
Mm,
their mind and the truth that they live by, that they can't be overcome by that? And
yeah,
what is your how's your belief system going to help them to
yeah,
continue that? I always look for answers, like, how do people keep encouraged,
yeah,
right, in these chat, like, you use, like, a lot of the people that you're helping, right,
yeah,
like, they have kids that are really struggling,
mm,
right, they have
yeah.
kids that are really struggling. How do you how does that affect your consistent elite performance? And have you ever done any data or studies on that? How is somebody going to get through those things while still being able to achieve their results?
Yeah. So the way I would look at it is, um, there could be a couple ways, but it's often you could compartmentalize to a degree, and sometimes very much having the outlet of your sport or your other thing can be healthy, but we don't want to
Yep.
avoid this and not process it. But the other cool thing that I would encourage or look at or I find interesting and important is when there's adversity, when there's tough stuff, there's always a
Yeah.
silver lining. Right. And it's just like two sides of the moon. Sometimes we're like, oh, well, the moon's all dark. It's so bad. And we judge things and this is so terrible. Well, it is dark. The other side's bright. There's always a silver lining. What's on the other side? And on the flip of that means you can't have a nightmare if there's no fantasy. And as long as you have a fantasy, there's a nightmare. And that means, well, oh, this is all great, all sunshine and rainbows. No, it's not. The moon's not all bright. The other side is now dark. We need the perspective to see both sides. And so when people are going through tough stuff, we want to help them collapse the fantasy and the nightmare. And so where happens is you can now use the adversity as a source of grit, a deeper source of motivation, mindset, evolution. You go from phase 2 to phase 3, you evolve. And so the silver lining is often like you're better off for it. You've evolved or grown in your impact or whatever the things you're doing in your life, they can use that versus it's using you and holding you back. And so
I love that. I'm so, Cassidy, I'm so like with that because so for my players, when they're struggling, they're not able to achieve the success they need. I always go, all right, who are we going to run this suicide for? Who are we going to run this sprint for? Who are we going to do it for? And like, you'll get those times like last year where there's a kid, his dad's at the practice. He goes, I want to do this one for my dad who was in jail for 10 years. Now, nobody knew he was in jail, right? But now the whole team and the parents know, but that's a whole nother story. But you should have seen these kids run.
yeah.
And I think that adversity, I had a guest on recently. They said that life, you should want to seek the uncomfortable. You should want, he even believes to seek that, to find it, because that's what helps you to grow and strengthens your mindset, strengthens your mental game. Not that you're looking for the horrible things, but that helps you to be able to persevere. Rocky Balboa, you know him, ain't sunshine and rainbows, like you're saying. It's a mean, dark place. So what, for you in your book, Mindset First, like what was your ultimate, when you wrote that book, what was the ultimate goal for every person to read that?
Yeah, to make the shift, to make the mindset, and you think about just even the mindset we're talking right now with adversity and challenges. Like we don't want to be avoiding them; we want to embrace them. And the question becomes, who do you want to be? The mistake, and I've alluded to it, is most people focus on results first, meaning like focus on what I'm going to achieve, and then I'll focus on what I'm going to do so I make sure I achieve that. And the last thing they prioritize is, okay, well, now who do I want to be? What's my mindset? How do I want to show up so that I can do these things to achieve that? And as long as that's the order, that's so backwards. It doesn't work that way. You don't have just the end goal in mind, and then the last thing you do is here, because your mindset will now suffer.
How's it going? It's Justin Fatica, and I can tell you I'm so thankful for your encouraging messages and engagement and joining us for our videos that we hope are bringing you encouragement when you need it most. Now, before you go, I want to tell you about some exciting news. Since I was 19 years old, it's my dream to build facilities for kids. Well, that dream is happening. It's a place where young people and their families can relax, socialize, work out, be encouraged, that they can make a difference in somebody's life every day or have their lives be impacted. That's where we need you. We need you to ask yourself if you'd like to help us to break ground. You can be a part of this mission within less than 1 year. But if we don't have help, we can't do this. Now, I know right now there are a lot of people struggling, but we're just looking for pocket change, a rainy day fund, or to connect us with partners who can help make this dream a reality. We want every single kid and every single family to know they're amazing. And it starts with you. Please like, like, share, and subscribe to our content so we can keep you updated, so you can keep us going. And together, remember, we are making a lasting impact. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your support. And stay encouraged. And never forget, you were made for an amazing day. And it starts with what lives within you. You're amazing.
And now you're the yo-yo, the emotional toll, the stress, the weight. And if your mindset suffers, the actions don't go as well, and you're less likely to get the results. And so, but if you flip it and you can be like, all right, well, let's start. Like, I might know what my goal is, but the priority and what I'm going to make most important is, how do I want to show up today? Like, and they can get clarity on that. They ask themselves that question before every day, before every game, practice. Who do I want to be? Right? When you think of like, who am I dedicating this to? Right? We're focused on who we're going to be. We're going to be dedicated. We're going to dedicate more than just ourselves. We're going to be, super motivated, dedicated, focused. And that's like, you're orienting their mindset to be like, well, how are we showing up? We're going to run like we're running for this guy's father. Like that's powerful. And then when you get that, what happens? The action, now they run hard, and the result, they get in better shape, and this, that, and the other thing, and their performance. So, but it starts with prioritizing who am I going to be, which is mindset first. It's looking within. It's this inside out and going like, all right, let's get grounded on the inside, and then now go take action in the external world. And so that's the main premise. That's the main flip. And there's letting go of phase 2. That's a big part of that, breaking free of the way of results. Then there's committing and being intentional about who do you want to be, and actually working through that piece. And then there's making it sustainable, because we help someone break free of results, they might fall back in the trap 2 weeks later. We help someone break free of the results and be intentional. Well, if they don't evolve and keep doing the work, they might be back at square one, 2, 3 months later. So those are the 3 main things: break free.
So how are you able to be consistent in your mindset? Now, before you answer that question, would you look at intellect and emotions as mindset, or would you look at those two separate?
Well, I would like, my interpretation of the word intellect is more like how good you are at like reasoning and math problems and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But I would look at like mindset is like the makeup of your emotional state, the thoughts that you're using, which is maybe a little bit.
So it's both and.
Yeah, it's
because
both
St.
and.
Thomas Aquinas says that there's,
Yeah.
Emotions.
Yeah.
Right. Then there's intellect.
Yeah.
And then what you're talking about in performance is your will.
Yeah.
Like the will, the choosing,
Yeah.
what you're choosing to do with your emotions and your intellect.
Yeah.
And what his goal, like Aristotle and Plato in the philosophy realm, is like, what's the highest virtue? Right. So in mindset, if you were to pick, like, what would be the highest virtue in mindset and your emotions and intellect, and like, what would be virtues that really help what you've seen in your studies?
Yeah.
With consistent elite performance of athletes and CEOs, like what's the brass tacks here? Like what is the habits, right? Oh, and the virtues. And I don't want to hear just everybody is different here. I'm sure that you have to find something for me that can give these people a hope that they don't have to just go search for themselves. It's just about their own feelings, emotions, and intellect, and then they're all lost now. So come on, help me out here.
Yeah, and I'll start with what it's not. So what's not the high, and what's this outside in, is the feelings, the charged emotions, like high and low, and positive, negative, and judgment, and have tos, need tos, and should, and tension,
comparing, and all that stuff you were talking about earlier.
To conservative and scared and worried versus like elated, like it's sad, like all these charged emotions is not what we're working for.
Nope.
So I would say they're more grounded, centered emotions or mental states where there's that passion, there's a flow state, there's centered, there's love, there's gratitude, there's encouragement. It's definitely like a feeling that can be, we could attach to it, where they're in the zone, they feel very present versus judging the past and the future and those things. So and again, it's more of a feeling, and generally people will feel, you'll feel light versus you feel heavy and oscillating and yo-yo and emotional. But up here, you're going to feel light, grounded. you're on path. Now, when you're up here, it's not like you're an up here. It's not like metaphorically speaking, but when
Yeah,
you're in this type of mental state and alignment, there's still like emotions. There's still,
of
you know,
course,
up,
of course.
backs and forth and this, but the line's a lot tighter, right? The lines versus down here, it's like high and low and over and bad and sad and anxious. Like we're just all over the map, and it weighs on us and it's heavier. This, we're just moving forward, and we're more in alignment is another good word. So these are ways of, maybe if that answers your questions around like, what
Yeah.
does it look like? What does it feel like to have that
Well,
mindset?
for me to stay encouraged, right,
Yeah.
Cassidy, I'm like, I go with the three. For me, the three virtues that keep me encouraged are my faith, my belief system, that I believe in the impossible, that can happen. My hope, one day at a time, not 10 days, one day at a time, that I have hope that it's not going to disappoint. Like, as long as I choose that virtue of hope, and then love, that I choose, not love a feeling or a thought, but love as patience and kindness and gentleness, not comparing, generosity. Like those three virtues I want to, if I can master those, I can stay encouraged. Like
Mhm.
I think as humans, this is my belief system. You could disagree.
Mm.
I think as humans, we have to we have to pick a virtue one at a time that we can really master, that can really get us centered.
Mm.
Like it has to be that will. It can't be like that feeling or emotion or just that thought. It has to be a virtue, something that's obtainable within our life.
Mhm.
Like, so if for me, I can believe, right? Like throughout my whole day. So you say you can't do that. No, that's not true. It's possible. Is it realistic? Well, one day at a time. What can I do that one day at a time, not a week at a time? So if you were to pick from your studies, the people you've worked with, like some virtues that are consistent across the board that you've seen help people stay consistent with their emotions, and it might not be the right ones. I'm just interested because I want to whatever you're going to say because you study this. So
Mhm.
I want to encourage you. I don't study what you study as much.
Mhm.
Like what would you pick? What virtues if you had to pick that you see across the board that help people to be able to have a positive mindset, to be able to like fight through adversity? What would you say from the clients you work with?
So we have four fundamental principles or virtues, which are acceptance, which is
Okay.
embracing seeing things for what they are, and then commitment and the ability to commit to who you want to be and how you want to show up.
Integrity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
integrity. And then there's grounded and centeredness as a virtue in and of itself. It's like, hey, let's stay centered, not positive, negative. Let's stay grounded, see things for what they are. And the last piece is enjoyment, which would be in line with like love and those things
Yeah.
as well.
Joy. Yep.
Yeah. So, like those
And that's
four,
what's in your book, Mindset First.
yeah, yeah, those are the four principles
And
that
where'd you get those from?
that's from just a lot of data. Like, and when we work on someone's mindset, they usually have some combination of those. And like under commitment, there's like swagger, attack, certainty. Under acceptance is going to be patience, trust, um, poise. And then under grounded, there's like team first, learning, like adapting. And under enjoyment is like knowing your why and some of those other things we've talked about. And so everybody's got different boxes to check and different words that then they'll associate, but there's usually in this type of a map, if that makes sense. And
Yep.
knowing then which ones to lean on though more. Like some people are like, they need more acceptance than commitment. Does that make sense? Meaning you want to be high in all of them, but it's like, hey, from a priority standpoint, when you're thinking like, faith and believing, to me, and if that's like the top one on your list, a lot of that might have to do with like accepting, letting go that you can't control everything and that it's going to work out.
Correct. Yep.
Does that make sense? Like that's
Yep.
under
Yeah. No.
acceptance
No.
to me.
Yeah. So you're
And
connecting those with other virtues.
yeah,
Because I don't know if you know Dr. Ken Blanchard, but he's one of my encouragement coaches. He's
yeah,
like and in the business world, he's like the guru of
mhm,
business training and management and what have you. I meet with him 2-3 times a year, but
yeah,
on the phone many times. He's a close friend. He's been working with me for 16 years, and
yeah,
he has an unbelievable story because he put this book together, right? He put this book together, 1 Minute Manager, and he goes on this faith based like show, and the guy says, "Oh yeah, like." Jesus already came up with that. Like basically like the faith guy. And then Ken's like, oh yeah, and then he connected it with Jesus because he's a respectful guy. And like
Yeah.
he's like, and he wasn't even like into faith at the time. So then after the show, his buddy, one of his best friends, they're walking on the beach and he goes, well, did you buy what that pastor said? He goes, oh yeah, I guess, this and that. And he goes,
Yeah.
but and he's going on his merry way. And he goes, look, his friend goes, well, Jesus came up with all of this stuff already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts about that? Do you believe that? And like, I don't know what your thoughts are. I'm not asking, like, do you believe in Jesus or that? I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts and I've never asked a guest this. I have the comfortability to ask you this. And, that just shows your, the integrity of the type of person you are. Like, when Ken went through that, he told me he was challenged because like there were so many philosophies all these years. Do you believe that all of the different books, and I have on all different types of guests from all different genres on purpose to let you know that you need to learn and be open. But do you believe that the old philosophers, as well as Jesus Christ, that they've already created all of this and we're just reinventing it in the words that people can understand now? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate for for the short answer. And
Yeah.
like it's not like these are not new in the essence of like no one's ever thought of acceptance or commitment or groundedness or enjoyment. Like these are not big complicated words.
No, no.
And there's been lots of great teachings on this and all types of different religions and areas and Eastern philosophies and there's all kinds of great content out there that dives into different ones deeper and etc. And the way I then look at it or bring it together is like there's a difference also between common sense and common practice. And what's very and the way that I look at it from like working with people is like, well, yeah, okay, yeah, you get these principles, but is it a common practice? Just like someone might get faith and belief and hope, but do they practice it? And so a lot of my job is not let's bring it to practice. And so the origins of it, or who originated, or who came up with these ideas and expressed them, there's been lots of people who have said very similar things in slightly different ways. I think, the way I look at it from my approach and where I would do is like, yeah, no, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. I'm taking what John does, Todd does, the religions, the deep writings on acceptance and the therapy world and the commitment and all of this stuff that's out there, put into a compact, concise way, digestible way, practical way that helps people think differently than they are now. I'm not saying I invented the wheel, but I've invented a wheel that works that I think in today's world and with today's athletes particularly and today's business people and like people that are trying to achieve big things. Well, here's a new way to go out and approach that from an inside out, which again, this stuff is as old as time. Like, the original philosophers, etc., the Stoicism, all this stuff is it's been there. This is just iterations, innovations, new ways of presenting it, putting things to pieces or putting pieces together in a different way creates a different picture that might resonate with a different audience, etc. And different variations of it.
I've never asked that question. I was just interested to get somebody else's take on it.
Yeah.
Because
a great question.
Everybody has their belief system. And what my job is to do is to encourage people in that and to help them understand, like, we got to dig deeper. But my other question is this: so from all of your high performance individuals you work with or companies or leaders, give me a success story that will inspire the people that are like, because we want people to leave here encouraged and built up. We want people to leave here and say, look, let me tell you something. I can stay in, because my big thing is you need the discipline to stay encouraged. Yeah. And it's similar to what you're saying. That's a mindset. I want people to have an encouraging mindset that every day you stay encouraged. Like today, I was up doing my prayer time, spending time with God. All of a sudden, I see this kid outside the church, and he comes up to me, and he just looks at me and starts laughing. I go, what are you laughing at? He goes, I'm just glad I got to see you. I didn't even know who this person was. I'm like, man, I'm going to hold on to this the rest of my day. Yeah. So I guess the whole point is, how can we keep people encouraged here, Cassidy? How can we keep them built up? Give me a story that can inspire them.
Yeah, I'll give a recent one. I'll give an athlete one. Obviously, the same thing applies. And I've got some like accountants and some investing guys that I've been and different people that have done this in other areas, but sports ones are often really nice and tangible. So this is a player who came from nothing. He's grew up in the streets, evolved, was always an underdog, got to the next levels, climbed the ranks. Now he's at pretty high, one of the top leagues in Europe, fairly successful. But over the last couple of years, that phase 2 mindset started to creep in. Very results oriented. The expectations now there's something to lose and the fear. And then therefore his performance at the start of this season was not as good as it usually was. He's usually a big, great shooter, trusts himself. And all of a sudden his swagger, his aggressiveness, his mindset, his ability to accept and let go of the noise, it wasn't working. Right. And he had never really worked on his mindset before. Then we started to work together not too long ago. And he starts like, all right, well, let's stop resisting phase 2. Let's stop resisting the results, the things going on around. It's like, hey, I need to go through this, was one of the lines he said, and talk about faith. And he is a very big faith guy as well. And he's like, no, I need to go through this. This is helping me create phase 3 mindset, which is better than phase 1, and helping him evolve and grow and serve and get grounded and have a healthier way of approaching sport and life. And so that was one part. And he was clear and being more intentional on this. And then building some systems in place around some healthy reflection habits, healthy, mental rehearsal and attention setting. And, consistent little mental checkpoints and things to keep his mindset. And then he was doing pretty good actually in the first few weeks and not bad, maybe 3-4 weeks in. And what was interesting was until he stopped resisting phase 1, though, it didn't break through. He was like, I feel better. I'm in a better mindset, but the points still weren't dropping. Right. But then once he's like, no, I need to go through this. It's like, it's going to take what it's going to take. Let me embrace it. Let me stop resisting, wishing I could go back to like it was a couple of years ago. It's like, you can't go back.
Yeah.
Let's evolve. Once he let that go, now the baskets are dropping. He's back. He's on fire. Like he's generally playing good. Like his mindset's at a whole nother level. His game's at another level. So there's tons of examples of that. There's people that are stressed in a new role or job and feeling the weight of that. And then once they stop resisting it, once they become intentional, they create space for themselves to breathe and focus on who they want to be. Now they can manage it better and things start to evolve and roll, and they're not so stressed out by their job or whatever it might be. So there's lots of other examples, but that would be a unique one that was pretty recent that I thought might resonate.
Cassidy, that's great. And what you're saying is, number one, we got to know our why, and we got to live by that why, that purpose. And number two is you're saying we need consistent, variables in our life, whether it's reflective time, whether it's us, finding ways to really dive into our relationships, into what our goals are and structures are within our mental life, in our family life, in our spiritual life, in our giving back, and have structures that we can have somebody in. And I think the third thing you're saying is, which I think a lot of people, and I want you to share about this as we're landing the plane here, is like accountability. Like that's kind of what you do, I'd say. Like you're like an accountability coach. That's from what I'm hearing. You're talking, and all your coaches are holding people accountable. Hey, you said you were going to work out 6 times this week. What's going on, buddy? Hey, you said you were going to spend that hour each day getting away from the world and spending time in prayer and reflection. Hey, you said that, you were going to go on a date night, twice a month because that you're losing grasp in your relationship and that affects your performance in your job. Would you look at yourself as like an accountability coach? Because I believe encouragement coaches need to hold people accountable.
Oh, 100%. So yeah, it's definitely a big part of it. And I look at it, maybe 3 ways. There's first, when you make the investment to invest in a coach and invest in yourself, that's a transformation of itself. Now you're committed. It's like, I am leveling up. I'm committing to leveling up. I want someone to work with to help me and guide me, along the path. And so that is like, you're kind of like, you're making that initial first choice and often the big, and like things will start to roll once you do that, let alone then you have someone to hold you accountable. And there's just tons of great research to highlight having someone that, you got to check in with somebody. Like I was at the gym this morning, the trainer's there, like when it's like one of those gyms where everyone's doing the same workout, but there's a couple trainers and the trainer's like, stand up, I'm going harder. Like, let's go. I can't stop.
Go hard. The trainer's not going to be happy to Cassidy.
I can't disappoint. I got to let her down. I can't have her like so.
She thinks you're soft, man. She thinks you're soft. You better man it up there.
So like just having those relationships and having it in a safe place, not necessarily parent or peer per se. You can have those are actually great other sources of accountability, but sometimes like this person's just here to encourage and guide, challenge you at times, but guide and encourage. But then the last big piece, and I think a big part of the magic and what we do is helping people understand and untangle the thoughts, feelings, lack of alignment, and better get clarity on what are they holding on to, and so they can clear and unravel that. So now you can go take action. And then, yeah, we'll hold you accountable to that, but we're also holding you accountable to doing the things. And hey, what's your reflection process and these things, and making sure you stick to it, right? Like I'll work with pro athletes year after year after year. I'm not really teaching them a lot of new stuff anymore, but it's like making sure they stay on path, for having the forethought of what might throw them off, having as a new adversity or challenge comes up, making sure they adapt and adjust to it quickly. And so we are all like, it's anybody can have a mentor, coaches, guides for our whole lives. It's a never ending path of growth and learning and
And how many
development. So
people are you coaching? How many people are you coaching?
yeah, I have like actively like 40, upwards of 50 active clients usually, give or
Your
take. And
busy
people
schedule.
come.
I appreciate the time today.
Yeah, it's busy. I'm busy. So
If you put those numbers together, that could be a busy schedule. But the two questions I always ask, which I think are so important for us here at the Encouragement Conquers All podcast, which I thank you for being here today. And anybody, look, I want you to hold me accountable. All right, come on, keep my mental game going. You're like, this guy needs that accountability, on that. But one thing I always ask them is, who is your encouragement coach? Who's been your person in your life on a consistent basis? I'm sure you have many, but really all around, who has been there, like really provide, like keeps your why going? Because that's what I believe. And for me, I believe in encouragement coaching. That's our philosophy, and it's the people that keep your why going. Who is that for you?
So I've got a few for sure. Obviously, my wife is always nice when we have that significant
I'm
other.
gonna tag all these people after we're done. I'm gonna tag them and everything. You better
Okay,
pick the
good.
right ones. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, yeah. So my wife's obviously a big rock and partner. There's from a business particular standpoint, my main mentor that I talk a lot with is Todd Herman. So he wrote the book The Alter Ego Effect. He's helped Kobe create the Black Mamba. So he's pretty big. Does a lot of business coaching. So he's fantastic. And then even on our team in the work, I have two people in our one, the guy I call my right hand, Nick. Coach Nick is like, his job is to help me stay accountable, make sure, like, help me navigate. There's just so many different things to do as a business owner. So he's very supportive. And then we also have Blair, who's our office manager, keeps things on point, helps me manage my clients and incoming people and all the rest of the team that way. So that's a big part of it. Obviously my parents and there's other people, but and friends, there's some good friends I got that I lean on, but those are some of the top ones that I'll probably lean on and get the accountability and support from the most.
Yes, you're similar to us. Design your life. You need an encouragement coach in your career and in your finances.
Mhm.
You need an encouragement coach in your family life. You need an
Yeah.
encouragement coach in your mental game, in your physical. You're not going to go to the career and finance guy who's, averaging, 48 donuts for your fitness game. You know what I mean?
Now,
Hey, maybe he's not. Maybe he does both. Maybe he can do fitness and financial, and
yeah.
and also your spiritual game. Do you have any spiritual coaches that help you out? Do you think that component's important?
Oh, for sure. I think there's definitely tons of different aspects. Like, so like John DeMartini. So he talks about the grand organized design and divine, and different ways of looking at religion. So he's been a great mentor in that way. Family can be great. Finding your passion can be a way to find it. And he's talking about coaches. So I got Todd programs and things I'm in with him, but I just signed up with like the Own It guy, Justin, and their programs of big health. So and they do the Whoop
Wow.
data and they do that. And I've got speaking courses with Heroic public speaking and like their coaching, mentoring on that kind of my speeches and stuff. I
That's
hired a book
great.
company with that. So I'm very big on finding different people that help me keep evolving, growing, self-reflecting. So John's stuff is, I would say, spiritual. He's not necessarily overly faith, but spiritual based. And
Okay.
hey, Like, in a lot of the ways I look at my life is like, okay, well, if I'm covering the main pieces, like, and I'm doing my main values, like that gives me a spiritual sense of purpose and connection to things outside of myself. So I cover my spirituality a lot in that kind of way of looking at it versus picking a specific religion.
Okay.
But, for whatever that's worth, but so
Yeah.
like,
No, I
but yeah, I'm a
appreciate your
big believer
honesty.
in that.
And my whole point of
Yeah.
this podcast is like, you have to remember, for me, God sends people in your life. They might have no faith. They might have 100% faith, but he
Yeah.
sends, like he sent you today to
Yeah.
teach me about mindset because
Yeah.
I love you and you're
Yeah.
God's kid and I want to listen and I want to grow and I want to be a better man. But a lot of
Yeah.
times we have these silos, right, Cassidy? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, don't let him in the silo.
Yeah.
He's some atheist or whatever,
Yeah.
or he's
Yeah.
some agnostic, or he's some
Yeah.
just spiritual guy, or he's not a
Yeah.
religion guy. And
Yeah.
that's what we've done in our country. And I
Yeah.
think that right now, more than ever, we need to stop this racket because
Yeah.
if we don't, we're going to hurt our children. We're going to hurt our children's children. And
Yeah.
if you're on the side of the road and your wife just died in a car accident, I'm not going to say, hey, well, give me your religion card. I'm not going to help you today. I mean, like, what's that about? I mean, come on. But
Yeah.
this is what we do in our country, and we got
Yeah.
to stop that. And if
Yeah.
my last question is, if you were to die today,
Mm.
right? God forbid, none of us want to die. Like, is there anything you'd change in your life?
That's the quick answer is no, because I'd rather live without regret. So I choose to do
True.
that. Like, is there things I could have done differently? For sure. Like, I mean, lots of little things along the way. Generally, I try to be grateful, or my approach or my choice is to be grateful for the life that I have and the experience I've gone through to make me to who I am now, which allows me to continue to evolve and grow. So try to stay grounded and grateful for the life I've had versus like, oh, well, I wish I would have done all these things differently and then live with that weight and resentment. Now, it doesn't mean like there was things like, hey, if I could have done that, would have done that. Hindsight's 2020. So like, yeah, made this investment. That didn't work
Of
out.
course,
Like,
oh man.
So,
Now, on that question is to really get to like the mere facts of what I believe encouragement's all about is,
yeah.
One thing I struggled with earlier on, I do better at now is you walk in your house, right? And you got your phone in your hand when you're ready to talk to your family.
Hmm.
And like, as I'm sure you believe, like I do, you got to, get rid of that and really
Yeah.
welcome your family. But what helps you like live every day as if it was your last with your family and your wife, which I can tell you are a family man, you care for your family.
Hmm.
Like, what would you share with them? And also what helps you to keep that one day at a time mentality with how you treat them? Something
Yeah.
I do, Cassidy, is I put sticky note, like today I'll go home and I put sticky notes, catching them doing the right things, catching them do. And so it's interesting. My kids have never thrown these out.
Yeah.
My son's 18. He's got like 100 of them plastered all over as well. Because for him, that's sacred to him. That's
Yeah.
meaningful. So
Hmm.
what would you share with your families? What's one thing that we could do to keep focused on what matters most?
Yeah. I think, it's about it goes back to that intentionality about like, who do you want to be and look at the landscape, the whole picture of your life. And then like, and how those different pieces, cause you can't be, in two places at once. I can't be on a podcast and be out playing games with my daughter. Like I have to make a choice and I do this a lot with my kids because I work a fair amount. I don't like work 80-hour weeks or even probably 60 or 7, but like, I work and I enjoy my work and I choose to work. I don't have to work. I make the choice to work because I enjoy it and the impact. There's also a financial side and then like we
Yeah,
need
of
that for
course.
those kind of things and basic need stuff. But like generally I choose to work and I also choose to spend time with them and I make those choices. And then how I show up though in that choice and when I choose to go be with them, I need to be intentional because I can't have the same mindset. One of the like in a work standpoint, again, I choose to be strategic, connect, progressive, like innovating, working to grow the business and do those things and have a bigger impact from a result standpoint now. But it's like that same mindset. I have to have a different inside out approach when I show up there. And I need to be intentional. And it's easy to get slipped in. It's easy to have the phone or go do an extra call or not be sacred with that time. And so creating clear boundaries, and then also having adaptability and being able to adjust. And there's different seasons of life. Books launching, I was a little bit like, yeah, I'm gonna go, like I'm gonna have longer work weeks and do some extra stuff, and then then we go on a vacation and do the other things, but being intentional about how I want to create my life and be intentional about who I want to be in those moments, I think is a big part. And for me, it's like, hey, well, I want to go be playful and connect. And like, how well can I go do that? Right? Like, let's go do that. Like, let me go be that and let that happen and evolve and be there for them. And just show up is often half the battle with that, because it's, and especially, and there's some great books on this. And I think it's Clayton Christensen, How Will You Measure Your Life? And it's like, when the kids are 3 and under, when they're 5 and under, when they're like, and as they keep growing, it's so important to give them your attention and your time and your energy, and to play with them and be there and doing the sticky notes like you're doing. Like, so I think those are, I'm a big advocate of that. And, because you can't go back in time later. So it's like, and a lot of people work really hard now, and they're like, oh, we'll have all this money and we'll have all these other things and this, but then it's like, well, that's too late. The kids are 15. It's too late. Like, so but it's about being intentional, and you can easily just it's easy to measure success in the business world. Makes sense. Very tangible. It's easy to focus on that. It's easy to make progress on that. And it's like, you don't know the fruits of your labor with your kids really till they're 25, 30, 40. Like, you're playing the long game in a lot of ways. And there's, and it's not about the long game anyways. It's about like, who do I want to be? Like, what does that look like? What does it feel like? How do I want to show up? And how can I create the boundaries? Like, put the phone down and do things. And how much time is for me? Is it, what kind of activities are we doing? And so anyways, great question. Well, that's probably a whole other podcast just on that.
No, I know, right? Of course. I just always ask that question because I think every person every day should be designing their life where they are personally, and I love the word you use. A lot of people I'm on the podcast use this word intentionality, to design your life with your family, that it is if it was your last day, that you gave your very best and you intentionally put your plan together. I always say, put a plan the night before for the next day. Put a plan the night. This is how I'm going to intentionally live that life. This is how I'm going to pour into my family. This is how I'm going to pour into work. This is how I'm going to pour into my faith life. This is how I'm going to pour into my mental game. This is how I'm going to pour into giving back. But guess what? We were encouraged today because of you, Cassie. I thank you for being on this podcast, because we want to make the world a better place. That's why you're doing it. My grandmother says, if you go listen to her podcast, don't be a nuisance. Don't be a nuisance. She says, make this world a better place. She's 105. All right. She's 105.
Love it.
She goes on my podcast every now and then. So you got to check that out. But you got to check out Cassie, his book, Mindset First. Check out all of it. And you know what he's saying, whether you get Cassidy or not, you can hire him to be your accountability coach, your encouragement coach. But guess what? Get one. Get somebody in your life to hold. That's what he's saying. Get somebody in your life to hold you accountable so you can be the best person you can be. So you can be a consistent elite performer, right?
100%. Love it. Thanks so much. I appreciate your energy, passion, enthusiasm, your encouragement. It's definitely contagious. So it was a lot of fun to join today. So thank you.
All right, go out and hug everybody. You better go up to a stranger today, Cassidy. Go give him a hug, all right? They're like, wait a second here, buddy. Calm down. You better go encourage one person, whether they want to be encouraged or not, all right?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Justin. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Encouragement Conquers All podcast with Justin Fatica. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this episode with someone who needs a little encouragement. For more uplifting content, follow us on our social media pages. See you in the next episode.